So welcome everyone to the Buddhist Path of Awakening course. Let's bow in. And okay. Tonight we're going to finish the chapter on Shamatha and Vipashyana from Tulky Urgyen's book, As It Is. We're going to do the second half. I'm going to sort of quickly go through the first half just to get us up to the second half. But before I do that, I'm going to try and share the screen with an image. In 1971 or so, Rinpoche was here in Boulder, and he was invited by Robert Lester, who is chairman of the Religious Studies Department at the University of Colorado, to give a course on Buddhism to the students, undergrads at the university, and he did. Marvin Casper and I assisted him. We were his assistants, and we sat there with the students, and I don't know what we did, but Rinpoche stood at a blackboard wearing a suit and tie or a coat and tie with the windows behind him that opened up. You could see the flat irons. It was pretty glorious. And a bunch of sleepy CU undergrads sitting in their chairs. And one day, Trungpa Rinpoche went up to the blackboard and drew this figure. I'm going to see if I can share it. I couldn't get the whole thing online. They wanted us to, there we go, want me to subscribe to Tricycle Magazine. But you can see what he drew. It's a picture of a stick figure of a bird. And he drew this on the blackboard, more or less. Everybody, can you see that? Can somebody tell me? Unmute and just tell me if you
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a more complete picture. I can't get Tricycle to stop trying to get me to subscribe. So that's as much as I could get up on the board. But it illustrates the point. Hoping I can go back to this meeting. Yeah, here we go. And the point is this. He asked everyone this rather simple question. He said, what is this a picture of? And of course, nobody wanted to answer because it was so obvious. And finally, somebody raised their hand and said, well, it's a picture of a bird. And he said, it's a picture of the sky. And this sums up, he was giving a talk, very profound talk as it turned out, on the three bodies of the Buddha. And this really is the key, that we live in a constant figure ground situation. The ground is our awareness of anything and everything. It's here all the time. We can't turn it off. It's there when we go to sleep. It's there when we wake up. It's going to be there when you die. Right now, I'm looking out a window at the sky and clouds and trees and my image on the computer screen and hearing my voice, and all of this is taking place within this ground of awareness, this unstoppable, ongoing, never-ending ground of awareness. The contents of the ground change. 1 minute it's a stick figure of a bird, the next minute it's a picture of an elderly, aging human being on your computer screen. But the fact of the awareness itself that encompasses everything, the five senses and thoughts, that never shuts off. That is the very ground of our being. Now, against that ground, we have thoughts. Thoughts arise and come and go, and they take our attention, and we lose track of the ground, just the way that student didn't pay any attention to the blackboard, was just focused on the bird. In the same way, we treat mental events. We focus on them, thoughts, emotions of all kinds, and we ignore this ongoing ground. Awareness of this ground is key. It is essential. And in fact, this path is all about learning more to rest in that awareness of the ground. It's effortless because it's always here. You don't create it. You don't turn it off. But you get subsumed, distracted by the figures, by the birds, by the thoughts, and we lose track of awareness of the ground. Meditation, true meditation, is all about coming back to this ground, resting in it, because it's effortless. In fact, any effort is another figure that distracts us from the ground. Oh, I better be a better meditator, and we're lost in that one. That's another figure. And we've lost track of the ground because the ground is always here. Always, it never ends. Let's all just take a meditation posture for a second. It helps to take a meditation posture. Your channels are aligned, as we say in Tantric Buddhism. There are three main channels going from roughly the top of the head. The main one goes from the very top of the head, the Brahmaranda, what you might think of as your fontanelle, goes down through 4 chakras, through the chakra in your head, which actually is the body chakra, the chakra in your throat, which is the speech chakra, the chakra in your heart, right here at the bottom of your sternum, which is your mind chakra, and then the chakra 4 finger breadths below the navel, which is the secret or sexual chakra. That main channel goes down from up here all the way through there down to the bottom, and it carries winds. All the channels in your body, and there are tens of thousands of them, carry winds, the winds of life, prana, lung in Tibetan, prana in Sanskrit. And these winds carry in them bindus. Bindus are little energy centers, little circles of energy that move throughout your body all the way down to the tips of your fingers and toes. But the 3 main ones run from roughly the top of the head. The other 2 actually run from your nostrils. They come out your nostrils and they go up into your head and then down on either side of the main channel. The main channel is called the Avaduti in Sanskrit. It's also called the Uma in Tibetan, as in, what's his name, Robert, the drama critic who has a daughter named Uma Thurman, Robert Thurman, named his daughter Uma. It also means Madhyamaka, but in this context, it refers to that central channel which carries the wisdom wind. To the right of it is the Rasana, which carries the wind of passion, and to the left of it is the Lalana, which carries the wind of aggression. And in male and female, those are reversed. That's the male setup. In female, they're switched. And those winds and then the central channel not only carries the wind of wisdom, it also carries the wind of ignorance. So we have the 3 poisons: ignorance in the central channel, desire or passion in the Rasana, the channel to the right, and aggression in the channel to the left, Lalana, and switch them for female. And then from there, they branch out throughout the whole body. But the main point that I'm making here is about figure and ground. Because the ground of our being, which never shuts off, is this ongoing awareness, which encompasses awareness of everything and anything. We lose track of this awareness because we get fascinated, subsumed with the figures of our lives. That moment of passion, that moment of aggression, whatever it might be, that thought about lunch, who knows? These little figures that pop up and they take us away from this ongoing awareness. In fact, we hardly even notice it because it's the background against the figures. The true meaning of meditation is not that it's a mental act, sort of a gymnastic act of mind. It's resting in this ongoing awareness. And when one does that, this awareness goes by different names in different contexts. The two main ones in the Nyingma sect, they call it Rigpa in Tibetan, Vidya in Sanskrit. They mean the same thing. They refer to this awareness, this intelligence that sees everything, anything and everything that arises. The Kagyus call it Tamagishepa, which means ordinary mind. It's ironic. This is the ordinary mind. It's here all the time. There's nothing extraordinary or unordinary about it. It's exactly what it is. And all of Tantra and enlightenment itself depend upon our ability to come back to this ordinary mind, to wake up from our fascination with the figures in our lives and let them go. This is called, among other things, familiarization. You get familiar with this ground. The word for meditation, which usually is translated as meditation in Tibetan, is gom. S-G-O-M when it's put into Latin letters, I guess, Roman letters. Gom. And gom literally really means not meditation, but familiarization. We get familiar with this ongoing background of awareness. Rigpa is a good word for it. You'll come across that a lot because a lot of our teachers today, people like Tsoknyi Rinpoche, Mingyur Rinpoche, all kinds of people are using that word, Rigpa, even though they span both sects. It's more common than Tamagishepa. Trungpa Rinpoche called it Tamagishepa, and he made it secret, that term. We weren't supposed to tell it to other people, but over the years, it's lost its secrecy. In fact, you can find it in the third volume of the Profound Treasury of the Ocean of Dharma. There it is, printed, for anybody who wants to buy the book. Tamagishepa, ordinary mind. It means the mind of ordinariness. Tamal is ordinary, gi is a possessive particle, shepa is knowing, mind. So, this chapter is all about coming back to the ground, discovering the ground, learning to rest in the ground. The thing about it is, we could do it right now. Let's do it. It's good to take a good meditation posture because then your channels, you see, are aligned, and it makes it easier to become present because the energies are flowing properly through the body, through the three main channels and out through the subsidiary channels right down to the tips of your fingers and toes. So that's one of the reasons they say in Tantra anyhow that it's great to take a good posture because the energy flows properly, freely, as it's supposed to. And now that we've done that, we just see this. Now, if you make an effort to see this, if you say, oh, I've got to come back from thought and stop fooling around and just really concentrate on it, that becomes another distraction because it's always here. It's here whether you try or not. This awareness, we just come back to it. We come back as effortlessly as possible because effort becomes another figure against the ground and distracts us from it. So if you want to be really intelligent, from a Buddhist perspective. We just come back to this effortless, ongoing, never-ending intelligence that is always here waiting for us effortlessly. He describes this quite beautifully. I'm going to start in on going through the chapter a little bit. So here we are in our ordinary body, traversing endlessly through samsara. You see what samsara is getting caught up in the figures, the thoughts. The thoughts are always about wishing things were otherwise. Hope, fear, sadness, desire, passion, anger, all these things are in the thoughts, the mental events, and we get distracted from the ground, which is this pure, simple knowingness, much more intelligent. The thoughts are very partial. They just come and go. They are very sort of temporary and inaccurate. They just, for the moment, they express something. But meanwhile, reality, here it is, never ending, ongoing. And we can react to that. We can live in that, which is what an enlightened person does. In this reality of Rikpa, of Tamalgishepa, of simple, effortless ground of knowing. Now we're talking about Shamatha and Vipashyana meditation. Shamatha there's sort of two stages. The stage of technique and the stage of being. The stage of being is when you awake and you're just here. In the stage of technique, you're trying to get to the stage of being. And shamatha at that point is a technique. It's an activity. It's the activity of slowing down your mind, stopping your mind. Your mind, and I'm talking about the mind of the figure, which is always involved in thoughts about this, thoughts about that, thoughts about the other. Shamatha at the first stage is about stopping that, because those thoughts are so disturbing eventually. They might be calm and peaceful little thoughts for a while, and then you get big ones. That person shouldn't have said that to me. I'm going to really punch them in the nose. Whatever it might be. So shamatha in the beginning is saying, whoops, I got lost in those thoughts, in those foregrounds, in those figures, and I'm going to stop it. Now the stopping itself becomes another figure. It's an activity against the ground in the beginning. The ground, when we tune into the ground itself, this is Vipashyana, awareness, because we're aware of anything and everything that is actually arising. These sounds, these figures, these colors, the tactile sensations in your body, all of this is arising in the ground, in Rikpa. In the second stage, which takes a while to get to, and we can do it right now though. See, anybody can do it. When you're resting in Rikpa, all you do is say, okay, I'm going to give up that activity of mind, that searching for something, that trying to get to a better place, and I'm just going to be here. Here we are. You can see this face, these eyes, hear this voice. No effort. That's Rikpa. That's Tamalgishepa. And it has two aspects. When you tune into this without effort, because it doesn't take any effort. Effort only obscures it, remember. Effort is like another thought, takes you away. So when you just come back to it, it has the quality of stillness and of being lit, of being awake, aware, with the color, the sound, all of that. These two qualities, stillness, which is the shamatha element now perfected, and all of the colors and information that this space contains, which is the Vipashyana element. I'm going to stop here and ask if you would like to have a bit of a discussion before we go on. This is core. This is the foundation of all Buddhism, the Mahayana, the Vajrayana, and to some extent even the Hinayana. So I'm going to invite comments, complaints, questions, whatever you like. They're all resting in the ground, that ground of awareness. Nothing to do. If you think there's something to do, then you're not in the ground anymore. You're not in Rigpa. You're lost in a thought, which comes and goes. They're all temporary. No.
I'll bite.
Good. Whoever said.
So, I mean, thank you for allowing for questions. Can you explain a little more the connectivity between stillness, which is shamatha perfected, and then the vipassana element, which is all the awareness that the space contains? Because I would think that if I am in perfect stillness, that shamatha perfected, that vipassana becomes an inevitable consequence of having a still mind, because it opens you to the brilliant visibility that exists to you in this present moment. So I don't know if I have that right, but I'm curious of that connectivity.
As long as you're not getting, what's the word, subsumed or, sort of drugged with the stillness, we can do that. And in fact, there are concentration states that we're warned about, but people get into them, where you focus one-pointedly on an object, stilling thought a lot in varying stages of stillness. These are called the dhyanas in Sanskrit, the jhanas in Pali, in the Southeast Asian tradition. And there are Buddhists who practice these states. They're kind of trance states. And we're warned about them because you can get stuck in them. And they are, in fact, when we describe samsara, it has three main divisions. It has what's called the realm of desire, which is where all of us are living. And we're living in one of there's 6 realms within the realm of desire. The God realm, the jealous God realm, the human realm, the animal realm, the realm of the hungry ghosts, and the hell realm. And these are all sort of neurotic states that we move through at different times. So you're walking down the street, maybe you're basically in the human realm for most of your life, but somebody comes up to you and says something nasty, and you get really angry, and suddenly you're in the hell realm. Or maybe you meet somebody on the street, and they're very rich, and you're not so rich, and you feel envy, and you're in the jealous God realm for a second. But above this is called the realm of desire, the kama dhatu. Dhatu means sphere, kama means desire. And above this, there are 2 more dhatus, which are completely mental, meaning they are you focusing your mind in varying degrees one-pointedly on an object. And there is the realm of pure form, and there's the formless realm above it. Each of them has 4 subdivisions. And these are different sort of trance states. They're like drug states that you can get into by focusing your mind one-pointedly on an object. So shamatha is useful in the beginning when you're just completely nuts. You're lost in your thoughts. You're sort of bouncing from one passion to the next, one anger, one whatever it might be. And shamatha will give you some relief from that and let you calm down so that you can begin to work with your mind. But you don't want to get stuck in that kind of shamatha. You want to take the peaceful aspect of it and combine it with awareness, the Vipashyana. And ultimately, enlightenment itself, you might say, is this combination of stillness, of no mental blends, and awareness, the color, the beauty of the senses and everything that arises. Does that help? There's sort of these two stages. The beginning, or the first stage of ordinary people practicing shamatha, you have this mind that's just neurotic, driving you crazy, and you calm it down so that you can begin to see Vipashyana. And Vipashyana contains within it a stillness, which is the shamatha aspect of Vipashyana. Okay. Anybody else before we move on? Nope. So he says, shamatha is necessary in order to abide peacefully without constantly fabricating, with stabilized attention, steady, but merely abiding, merely resting in the stability of shamatha practice does not guarantee the recognition of the naked state of self-existing wakefulness. It doesn't do it. It helps, can help. He said it is possible to develop a quiet and still mind, but this is not a liberated state. The temporary figure against the ground of our Buddha nature commands our attention, a thought. These mental events are only temporary, but our basic nature is primordially free of the obscurations of emotions and thoughts and always present as background or foreground, depending on us. We can bring it forward and make it into the foreground. And the actual character of this basic mind, the ground, is self-existing wakefulness. Self-existing. We don't have to try and make it happen. It's already happening. The state realized by all the Buddhas. This is the state that's realized by all the Buddhas. So when we practice this, and we are practicing this, we are going to be practicing this, you just come back to this simply. And as soon as you start to say, okay, now I'm awake, now I'm aware, I'm going to hold on to this, now you've lost it again. Because it's always here. We're just touching in on it. It's like touching the space. We're touching the awareness. He says, Urgyen Mahamudra and the middle way, Madhyamaka, all explain how all thought is free of form, sound, taste, smell, and touch. All thought is empty movement, and yet it still seems to arise as a real event, and we can get carried away with it, which is the state of a confused sentient being, carried away by the figure, the thought, the figure against the ground. And then he says, remain in uncontrived naturalness for short moments. This is the technique. You should remember this. We all should remember this. We do it for short moments. You just come back. Repeated many times. You can become accustomed to this. The short moments can grow longer, and they do it by themselves. We don't have to, if you try to make them grow longer, then you're caught up in another thought again. In one instant of remaining in unfabricated naturalness, a kalpa, that's an eon, of negative karma is purified. You just need to allow the moment of uncontrived naturalness. It's already here. You just come back. Instead of meditating upon it, meaning focusing on it, simply allow it to naturally be. It is more a matter of familiarization than active mental effort. That familiarization is the translation of the word that we often translate as meditation. So this is the real meaning of meditation. We're getting familiar with this state of awareness that's always here. And then I found this so helpful. This state is one of recognition, not of a deliberately created mental state, not the outcome of mental effort. So it's not something that you create through effort. It's a state of recognition. You just recognize, here it is, awake, right now. So we're training and paying attention to what is happening now, but without the watcher. And what is watch? The watcher is always saying, okay, now I'm doing it, now I'm not doing it, now I'm doing it, now I'm not doing it. And that just gets in your way. So you let go of the watcher. And then he quotes Longchenpa. I'm going through this first part of the chapter fast, I hope. He says, well, he says before that, at all levels of Buddhist practice, these two have to go together. Stillness and the insight, the awareness, shamatha and vipassana. Longchenpa says in the Urgyen, Longchenpa, his greatest works were what are called the seven treasuries. And one of them is called the treasury of the Dharmadhatu, the treasury of the realm of reality, in Tibetan, Urgyen. And he says, the original nature, this is it, what we're talking about, the original nature, totally free of all thoughts, is the ultimate shamatha. Natural cognizance, spontaneously present like the radiance of the sun, here it is the Vipashyana that is utterly uncontrived and naturally present. Just pith. The original nature, totally free of all thoughts, this is our original nature, this is Rigpa, is the ultimate shamatha. Natural cognizance, knowingness, spontaneously present like the radiance of the sun, is the Vipashyana that is utterly uncontrived and naturally present. Okay, I'm just going to jump ahead down to the section we haven't done. So the natural state of totally naked awareness, this Vipashyana Shamatha combination, has the quality of being unimpeded. It is true freedom. It's right here. All we have to do is touch back into it. We touch back into it often and effortlessly. This is the practice. If you try to hold on to it, it's perverted, it's gone. You've got effort again. So it's recognition, not creation. He says this is not the mere absence of thought. That is why shamatha is not by itself the true path to liberation. Shamatha is trying to get rid of thought. It needs to be conjoined with the clear seeing of Vipassana on every level, all the way to complete enlightenment. So don't meditate, Tulky Urgyen says. All the training you have had was indeed beneficial in that there are fewer thoughts now, but it is not beneficial to continuously pursue a special thought-free mental state. No, no, no. Rather, simply allow yourself to be in naturalness, free of any fabrication. We come back to it. We can do it. We can do it right now. Just here we are. Boom. It's that simple. Again and again. This is the practice. We come back to this. And then he says, this is just sort of a helpful little hint. To be 100% sure that your spiritual practice is going in the right direction, there are the three excellences. You begin your practice with refuge in bodhicitta, which is what we do. You know, how do we say it? May all beings enjoy happiness. No, that's the we say what somebody.
In order that all beings may attain Buddhahood. Put it up.
No, that wasn't it either. Um,
In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels.
Thank you. That's it. That's the bodhicitta first and the refuge later. We could do an expanded version of that. You know, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha, and may all beings achieve enlightenment. So this is what you always start your practice with. He says, then it doesn't matter how much you're able to practice while being totally free of concepts. Just train to the best of your ability for the main part of the session. Just come back to this for the main part of the session. And then always complete by dedicating the merit to all sentient beings and making pure aspirations. And we do that. We dedicate the merit. And why are these so important? Because it's getting rid of I who wants to make things perfect, I who wants to achieve something, and that just gets in your way. Okay. I've talked about avoiding the formless and form realms, which are those mental states of concentration that can be achieved when you get completely subsumed in shamatha and are trying to freeze your mind, to slow it down to almost motionlessness. He says what we need is to combine the peace and stillness of shamatha with the clear seeing of mind essence itself, Vipashyana. It is totally beyond anything that dwells and anything to be dwelled upon. You can't hold it at all. And as soon as you try, everything goes crazy, goes bad. He says, beyond anything that dwells and anything to be dwelled upon, that is the moment when shamatha and vipassana are a unity. Understanding this point is extremely important. And then there's this quote. Ema. Ema means wonderful, amazing. This unmade, present wakefulness, here it is, unmade, in the present moment, is the true Samantabhadra, the true Buddha of the all good, from which you have never been apart for even an instant. It's our nature, while recognizing, let it be in naturalness. This is our practice. Mind is in the body right now, and it's all about mind. When you die, you can't see because your eyes have died, but the mind consciousness goes on. So he says, so that which experiences is not the body. It is that which is in the body right now, which is in this moment right now. He says, it is only mind that hears, smells, sees, feels. It's in this intelligence. The second line, Samantabhadra, is the full mastery of the nature that is present throughout all samsaric and nirvanic states. It is your Buddha nature. We all have it. It's our Buddha nature, this unstoppable, ongoing awareness. Your own present wakefulness. You get distracted and focus on a figure and lose track of the ground just for a moment. But even the figure is lit by the ground. The ground being, it's like this intelligence, this ongoing awareness. Then he says natural. You do it naturally. And this means that you are to leave your present moment of wakefulness exactly as it is. This is such a, we're not tampering. We're not trying to make things go in a particular direction. We're just being here with it, responding to it, living it. Mind and essence are not separate, just like the sun and its rays are not separate. We've never been separate from this essence, even for a moment. Our true nature is Samantabhadra, the Buddha, the nature pervading both nirvana and samsara. We need to recognize it. This intelligence, unstoppable, ongoing. I mean, you can rest in this intelligence, and your mind, your path will evolve on its own. You can have that faith that you don't have to do anything to progress along the path. That's an amazing realization. We all think, oh, I've got to make myself really better. I've got to work hard. No. Coming back to this effortless nature of what we already are, that will transform you all by itself. Transform your life, your values, your relationships, everything. And then that fourth sentence, while recognizing, let it be in naturalness. You need to go beyond dualistic intelligence, beyond viewer and viewed, beyond duality. The dualistic intelligence, viewer and viewed, always has to do with me and what I need to do. Forget it. It's a waste of good time. It's a byway. It's a dead end. And then he says, whether you are Buddha Samantabhadra or a tiny insect, there is no difference in the quality or size of the Buddha nature, this intelligence. The difference lies in the grasping at what is experienced, the bewilderment of the sentient being insect. There's the difference. But the basic intelligence, common to an insect and us. He says, allow that to be as it is. Let be in naturalness. That is the whole teaching in a nutshell. Having recognized this, train in it through uncontrived naturalness. Finally attain stability. And I encourage you to do Nundro because I would love to see you all get to Urgyen, the great perfection, which is all about living in this. And there are practices that you do, all kinds of practice, wonderful practices to enhance this, to make yourself more enlightened, more in this ground. Ordinary means that unceasing wakefulness is present in all beings, from Samantabhadra down to the tiniest insect. This unceasing wakefulness is the true Samantabhadra, the true Buddha. It's naturally so. This Buddha nature is so close and easy that we don't believe it. It's so close and so easy that most people find it impossible to trust that simply letting it be is sufficient. Letting it be. And then you will evolve. You will grow. You will change. You will become a Buddha. You already are a Buddha, but you'll really become a Buddha. Begin to become, your actions and thoughts will all become transformed. He says, the very moment that you recognize it, this Buddha nature, there is nothing simpler than that. Nothing simpler than that. It is not necessary to meditate, like I'm going to try hard, even a speck. Shamatha needs to be meditated, cultivated. This emptiness does not possess an atom of anything to meditate on. No effort. Effort just obscures it. The immediacy of your present wakefulness, which is right here, means no longer thinking of the past and not planning the future. That's a beaut. You could try that, living in that space, not thinking of the past and not planning the future, just living in this space of Rigpa, awareness. Naked, ordinary mind, Tamagashepa. What naturally is present. You don't have to do anything to bring it forth. Nothing. You don't have to do anything to bring it forth. You just come back to it. There it is. That going beyond thoughts of the 3 times is the essential meaning of the 3 gates of emancipation mentioned in the sutra. That is Tamagashepa, ordinary mind. Ordinary mind means not tampered with. It means that nothing needs to be accepted or rejected. It is already perfect as it is. I feel like I'm saying the same things over and over again. He did. But we just can't hear it, you know? We get so lost in our habits. What's for dinner? Oh, that person said something to me. I'm going to get even. Oh, you know, I want to do this. I want to do that. We need to be free of thoughts of the 3 times, past, present, and future. There's nothing easier than this. There is nothing easier than this, because it's resting in Rigpa. It is like pointing at space, he says. Like that. What could be easier? Once meditation has dissolved into the expanse of your basic nature, then it is easier to see and easier to maintain. Easier to see means that recognizing is simple. You just recognize it. Easier to maintain means to be proficient in naturalness, lack of effort. Get accustomed to the fact that it's always here. And then finally, this quote, never meditate and never be distracted. Never meditate like, you know, a mental exercise. And never be distracted means thinking about what's for dinner, I'm going to get even with that person, whatever it might be. When you forget and meditate or be distracted, apply mindfulness. Without this watchfulness, the old pattern takes over again. The old habit of not seeing the mind essence and being continuously caught up in thought. Without watchfulness, without reminding, there is nothing to remind us to recognize mind essence. So we can have a discussion again. This is advanced. Tulky Urgyen did this. But if you go to hear his sons, Tsoknyi and Mingyur, and I don't know Chugyinma Rinpoche, but those 2, you'll be hearing a lot of this. Philip.
So sure, thank you. That was wonderful. I just want to reinforce the last part you're saying and that Tulky Urgyen is saying. So Mingyur Rinpoche gives pointing out instructions very liberally in different forms and in different ways and all of the time. And one simple way he gives them is these 3 things. He says, don't meditate, don't get lost, be natural. Don't meditate, don't get lost, be natural.
It's good. That's good. That's Mingyur. The world could change living in this way. Sarah.
Thank you, John. There's this question that keeps coming up for me, and that is, if I come to realize this mind essence, then how is it possible that there are still confused beings cycling through samsara?
How's it possible? Say it again. I'm sorry.
For confused beings to still be cycling through samsara?
How can other beings, if you get unconfused, why is it that other beings will still remain confused?
Yeah,
Is that it?
yeah.
Because their egos are at play.
But if it's
Yes?
but if it's this illusion that I am like have come to realize and rest in, and it's all this mind essence.
The illusion lies in the thoughts, but the thoughts spin around and create samsara and create separate beings, or the illusion of separate beings. It's like cartoon characters, maybe, or movie characters. They take on a life. In our minds and other people's minds.
Well, so then the emptiness, I mean, if it's this empty cognizance, then it's, if I come to realize that,
Yes.
how are there still confused beings in that emptiness?
Well, because they haven't realized emptiness, right?
But
They're
it's
still
empty,
operating on a belief in an ego.
but they're empty too.
But they don't realize they're empty, and that's why they suffer.
Right.
Okay. I'll just have to accept that.
And the same.
Well, yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, just that, not that it's my experience exactly, but that when you have complete confidence in your innate nature, then you do see other beings as suffering needlessly, and that's that's the compassion that one feels for sentient beings at that point in time. That not only are they suffering because of false beliefs and confusion, but that it's actually totally unnecessary. And yet, because of karma and because of what they cling to, it occurs. And at the same time, it is empty. I think it's the empty aspect of empty cognizance, I think, that's hard to see. It's like, if I ring the gong right now, this is, you know you're hearing a sound. You might label it whatever you do, but in that moment, it's very simple. You hear a sound. And it's that knowing quality of mind that's awareness, that knowing quality of mind. And in that sense, it's very simple. But as John said, we get caught up in the figure and don't recognize the knowing quality that's aware of that sound, the knowing quality that's aware of looking at a computer right now, that's the knowing quality that knows we're thinking about what we've been talking about right now. That first moment of knowing.
Get caught up
And
in.
I was going to say, if it wasn't empty, we'd be permanently stuck in whatever we're experiencing. But the reality is I can look straight ahead of me and see an object. I can look to my side and see a different, and I can know that I'm seeing. And not only that, but you can't really separate the object from the knowing. They're both the same and different. If they were the same, it wouldn't change. And if you really look at these things, this is why Trungpa Rinpoche's thing about Vipashyana is always look further, look further. And part of looking further is letting go of reference points, and any reference point's an obstacle to seeing.
Now,
I don't know if that helps, but
I'm looking further is not about effort or ambition.
it's just allowing it to occur.
Yeah, just allowing it. Here we are, coming back to this.
Right now we got a lot of hands up.
That's simple. Coming back to the awareness that's here every instant. Philip.
Thank you. Yes, that's a really good question, and one that I think about a lot. And the way I would phrase it now is, how can things possibly be perfect just as they are when there is so much suffering? And another way of saying what John and Michael have just said, and sort of the model that people present, is that it is the union of emptiness and awareness. And some people would say infused with compassion. And others would say that awareness is compassion, that that's Buddha nature. It's emptiness and Buddha nature. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think that this awareness that he's describing contains true compassion within it. It's not a feeling sorry for. It's an openness to resonate and to feel other people's suffering and state of minds altogether. Miriam.
Yeah, I was going to add like another way of understanding this. It has to do with identification with thoughts. So we get caught in that. I think it's just another way of rephrasing what you've said, John, around getting caught up in the illusion or identifying with our thoughts, the story, the narrative. Like, this is me. This is what happened, or this is what's going on for me right now. And this mind identification with the ongoing thoughts as though they were true. We all do that, but some people have no insight into the fact that it might not be the ultimate truth. And so this is the ignorance of the world. And one thing that I'm noticing more recently is that it's much harder to detach from all thoughts and rest in space or rest in the awareness when there's some sort of ache or pain in the body, whether it's emotional or just physical. It's like this seems to be begging for attention, and I find that it's so hard to let go of that and not identify with it, to try and understand it, fix it, or do something about it. So I guess what I'm saying is there are times when it's easier to really be in that place of pure awareness and to rest there. I think it's when the body is calm, when the mind is calm. I don't know, but it seems to be something around what's going on physically, mentally, that makes the whole process easier or harder. And in the end, what I find is that I tend to sometimes be so identified with a sensation or an emotion, and I'm totally gripped by it, you know? So, and then it's much harder to be in Rigpa. Anyway, so that's my share.
Thank you. Shinyi.
Yeah. So first, something came to mind when Miriam was sharing. Maybe you're not referring to what I was trying to say, which is something that I don't think is the right thing to do. But I tend to think that if there's something physically or mentally calling your attention that is aching or something that really you feel that you need to address, it doesn't mean that you don't do it, right? You can still be in that state of Rigpa, but also just do what needs to be done. Because I see myself like sometimes like, oh, okay, like something when the thoughts are raving and there's something that is coming from somewhere inside me that's drawing my attention. If I just say, okay, I'm just not going to think about this anymore, and convince myself that this is my awareness practice, that actually isn't right, because yeah, there are things sometimes just needs to be done. Okay, so anyways, putting that aside, now I'm more and more convinced that to truly understand and realize the words so profound that Tulky Urgyen put in his chapter, it is so important to have the foundations of the non-dual trainings or the preliminary. So if we haven't decided on the material to study next, I'm going to put in my vote to do the words of my perfect teacher. So that's it.
Oh, God, yeah, I thank you for that vote. I love that book. Yeah, yeah, it's terrific. And also, Shinyi, take a look at Enlightened Vagabond.
Yeah, I love it.
Isn't it terrific?
Yeah.
Yeah, I met too, Ricard. Who else?
I'm going to say that I think that's an important point, Shinyi, that in formal meditation, there's an emphasis on stillness and posture and all of that because it makes it easier to recognize awareness. But I think that the real stillness is not necessarily absence of things. It's being able to stay in that knowing quality of mind, stay in Rigpa, regardless of whatever, whatever is occurring. That's the real stillness. It isn't the absence. It's resting in that awareness, that knowing quality. That's the real stillness, no matter what happens. And then you take action based on what's appropriate in the situation.
Well said. Yeah. In fact, your action might be more accurate and effective for having seen things without the bias of thought. Well, Miriam again.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. I think what I was referring to would be called obscurations that have to do with your own karma, the sticky points. And it's much harder to shut it off. If only you could say, I don't want this in my awareness. I don't want to think about this anymore. And if it worked, it would be great. But I think when it's the same theme that comes up, it's your thing, and it makes the practice much harder, but probably even more rewarding in some ways. It's probably the hard work, in fact, is when you're dealing with your own karmic themes or obscurations. Yeah. So I feel like there's just a lot more to be done for me anyway.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping people will get into the idea of nundro, prostrations and mantra and so forth, because there are now teachers and organizations that have put forward abbreviated versions of the nundro, making it easier. And I encourage you, if you're interested, to look into it, because it's the pathway into, you see, this whole subject of Rigpa and Tamagishepa is advanced, it's tantric. And I would love to be able to teach Tantra, but I and other people who are like me who have studied it are bound by oaths. Oaths are what are called samaya. Samaya means obedience to the teacher, to my teachers. And probably the most powerful and most common oath, samaya oath, is the oath of secrecy. When you receive these teachings, you're not allowed to just give them to anybody. There are rules. So Michael and I are bound by those samaya oaths. And one way that you can sort of help us is by doing Nundro. When you've done Nundro, I have permission to teach certain things to people who have done Nundro. We can open up new pathways. Should we end early today? Maybe this is just a conversation stopper. This subject is so profound. We're all doing it. Resting in Rigpa. You just come back. Like he says, like touching space. Sarah.
In reference to what Miriam said at the end of this book, I believe it's the last chapter, he gives a bunch of examples of these magical beings who have realized this. And one of the examples was a guy who's had a sore in his stomach and ended up opening up all the way till his blood and guts were all pouring out of his stomach. But he was able to stay in Rigpa. So I guess we could get to that point where maybe we could be in that much pain and still be okay.
Philip.
So for balance, I'd like to end with the top of this page, and this is 85. And Tulky Urgyen says this: the glimpse of recognizing mind essence that in the beginning lasted only for a few seconds gradually becomes half a minute, then half an hour, then hours, until eventually it is uninterrupted throughout the whole day. So this is a broad spectrum we're talking about here. There's something in it that's applicable to each of us, exactly where we are right now.
Yep. Just come back for short periods of time, because the longer you try to hold it, you get in the way. And suddenly there's effort, me and my effort. But just touching it again and again and letting it grow. Modro, do you have anything? No. Who else? Kimberly Witherspoon. We haven't heard from you in a long time. Randy. Who else? Trip? No. Who's doing Nundro here? Anybody? Oh yeah, John Tyler and Sarah and Philip and Shini. Have you finished? No. We're close. You're getting there. Well, okay. I'll put the chants up. And who's leading? I forget. Do we have a leader?
I am. Trip.
Here we go, Trip. I'm going to mute all. So Trip, unmute yourself.
We'll close by saying a prayer for peace and dedicating the merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. by the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times, and my prayers of pure aspiration, may wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great East, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thank you, John, for all of your teaching, and Michael as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Trip.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Trip.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Good night.
Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thank you all. Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.